Hello, viewers. Thank you for tuning in to hear about the inspiring stories and dedicated individuals making a difference in education. Today, I want to address a significant issue that has emerged over the past 10 to 15 years, and that is the decline in social emotional health among students across America. Research indicates that the rates of anxiety, depression, and stress have significantly increased among both students and adults. We believe that the rise of technology and social media has had a mixed impact. While we know that these platforms can foster connections, they have also contributed to feelings of isolation, cyberbullying, and lower self-esteem, particularly among adolescents. The good thing is that studies also show that teaching resilience and coping strategies can enhance social emotional health. So programs focused on emotional regulations, problem solving, and relationship skills have demonstrated positive outcomes. Having served as a high school principal, later as an assistant superintendent and superintendent, I've witnessed these challenging trends firsthand. Fortunately, I've also encountered many educators fighting the good fight and doing their part to support students in navigating these difficult situations. I'd like you to meet one such remarkable educator who I have tremendous respect for. Chris Jones, a retired biology teacher from Dos Pueblos High School. I first met Chris while serving as an assistant superintendent in the Santa Barbara Unified School District, where I was responsible for supporting and overseeing all secondary schools, and Dos Pueblos High School being one of the schools. So, Chris, welcome. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great, Ben. Thanks for having me. Yeah, it's a beautiful day. I got to wake up, have my coffee, take the dogs for a walk. It's a good day.
Man, how's Santa Barbara nowadays?
Uh, this is, without a lot of rain, this has been a really tremendous winter. I mean, the weather has been fantastic. We
Wow.
had we had fog is I've lived here my whole life, so fog has completely ruined I would say my summers for childhood on. And we had a really foggy fall. It was something like I've never seen before. So I'm very much a solar charged person. I don't know how people in Seattle do it. Uh, but yeah, I love getting outside. I love seeing the sunshine. It's definitely my thing. So I'm just loving life right now. It's a good time.
Great, great. Well, you heard my opening remarks, and I know we both understand the social emotional challenges that students and adults face today. From your perspective as an educator, what have you observed?
Well, so I've been teaching I was teaching for 24 years. This is my first year not teaching in order to pursue High Five. And then out of that, I was teaching teachers for 19 years. Um, I've got two of my own daughters went through school. They actually got to be in my classroom, which was a fantastic experience.
Oh, wow.
Um,
You're brave, man.
uh, well, I don't know. I mean, it's funny because I feel like teaching is very different than parenting,
Yeah, yeah,
and we had, big talks before that.
yeah,
But yeah, through education, uh, sometimes you kind of feel like, well, maybe I'm just getting old and grumpy or something, but um, changes were definitely happening, and there's a lot of data showing that changes were happening with kids.
yeah.
And so in my classroom, I've always had a saying that was positive vibes. That was my classroom saying. I even had a girl one time who obviously was affected by that saying. She made a sign for me in art class that said positive vibes, but she spelled it wrong.
Yeah.
And it took finally someone in the class recognized it, and she's like, "Oh my gosh, but I don't care. I love it even more now. Like, it's fantastic." And I kept that sign in the back of my classroom until I retired.
Yeah.
Um, so positive vibes is always something that I felt like was an important thing to push. I went through a period of depression when I got out of college and didn't know it. And
Mm.
so for me, the way I got out of it was I really, every time I caught myself saying something negative, I would say a couple things that were positive,
Yeah.
and that's how I got myself out of that funk.
Yeah.
Um, And so I wanted to, with education, try to help kids in a similar manner, but everybody's different, right? So there's not really one way to help people. Uh, and so I started coming up with this idea of the high five movement. And wouldn't that be cool if you got this movement of people, everybody giving everybody positive feedback?
Wow.
And so I started looking at the research of that, and positive feedback then loops into making people feel better when they give someone positive feedback. It's not just the person receiving the positive feedback that does better. In fact, the person who's giving the positive feedback gets more benefit. So I started kind of building that to try to combat some of the anxiety and depression that was happening in schools, and just trying to get, what if we got this whole movement going? And as I was doing that, then I started doing more research, and I started taking a look at um, gratitude, right? Which is similar to giving positive praise, only it's for yourself, maybe in your own life. And the power of gratitude is scientifically proven to help people, right? And so I added a gratitude journal, and through building of a product, this is something a lot of people told me. You're going to go through several iterations,
Yeah.
and you're just going to keep. It's going to just keep on growing as you talk to people. At first, I was afraid someone was going to steal my idea, right? But then uh, the number of people that I spoke with that had built stuff, they said that's not really how it happens. I mean, that was maybe that's a rare occasion. So if you're ever building something, just talk to as many people as you can, and be my advice.
Okay.
Um, and at some point, I realized that this was, in fact, it wasn't just a positivity portal. I was building a social emotional tool. And how cool would it be if we could collect data? And I had one teacher suggest to me, wouldn't it be neat if we could see the moods of our kids every day, and then we could make adjustments and we could help the ones that needed help? So that's a great idea. So then I came across the mood meter, and we put in a interactive mood meter into High Five
Wow.
that allows kids to check in with their mood every day. And um, personal experience, both of my daughters had some social emotional struggles. I think a lot of kids do.
You would not believe how many kids are going through this.
Oh yeah, I remember. I mean, that's what was happening in the classroom, um, and just going through my own struggles with my own kids, I feel like it gave me a lot more patience, I guess, and a lot more understanding of what a lot of my students were going through.
Mhm.
And I think things may have happened very differently in my own home if my daughters had been using a mood meter.
Wow.
If that was, because schools, like I said, we talked a little bit earlier. I think parents have a slightly different relationship,
Yeah.
maybe vastly different relationship than teachers do,
Yeah.
right? And our kids are at our schools, for more of the time than really a lot of times they're at home, other than when they're sleeping. So we have a unique, as educators, a unique position with children to actually try to help them and figure out when they're struggling.
Absolutely. So the mood meter is essentially a way for a teacher when students come into a classroom, based on what I've seen, what you've told me, and when students come into the classroom, they get on the computer or on their phones or iPads or whatever device that they have, and then there's a prompt that says how you feel today, and they actually provide that information.
Yeah, and so then so then the teacher gets to see on their seating chart this display of how everybody in the classroom is doing. And then if the student's really struggling, then there's a option, when they put in whatever emotion it is that's considered to be um, low excitement, low energy, then they are prompted with, do you need someone to check in with you right away? And
Wow.
that prompt was really powerful, at the school, at our school that we tried this at. There were several students that were discovered to be in really a bad place. Some of them, then we were able to get them help let their parents know, and the parents were able to then, go through insurance or whatever to try to get them some help. Um, it that right there alone,
Yeah, well, I
it
can
was
imagine.
it
Yeah,
was an amazing day, man. The day I found out about that,
yeah.
I called my investors, I called all the people that had helped me with this, and I said, we did it. We saved a life. It was worth the 3.5, 4 years that I've spent developing this, really.
So you're one of those teachers, and if I recall, you're always the one checking students' mood anyway. You stood by the door trying to just greet them and see how they're doing. And at some point, some kids come in and put their heads down. Some are happy to see you. Some you never read. But
Yeah.
this is a actual scientific way. They have to actually state how they're feeling, and you can now capture that without that guesswork.
Yeah, so the data collection is the big piece of that, right? From a day-to-day perspective, you get to see your students and you get to check in with them. And the door was a great, that was a great tool. That's what I had available, but it was not even once I started collecting the mood meter data, I was shocked.
Yeah.
I mean, you have your top students are the ones that are a lot of times saying that they're stressed out. And
Wow.
so I would have conversations with these kids and, is
Wow.
there anything I can do? Can I, do I need to talk with your parents and try to get them to back off on you? Or like, and they're like, no, it's me. It's 100% me. I'm just so, nervous about getting into schools and, they're faced with confronted with so many pressures that
Absolutely.
just having one kid, in fact, he was really struggling, and because I checked in with him, you could see it on his face, but then he even verbally said, he said, "I really appreciate that you cared enough to check in with me."
That's awesome. That is awesome. So,
Right?
so just based on what you're telling me about this, about high five, it seems like it can be scaled up as a tier one instructional approach for the entire school. By tier one, I mean having 80 to 100% of the staff commit to implementing components of the program, such as the daily check-ins or gratitude journals and so on. Uh,
Right.
what are your thoughts on that?
Well, so there's really two aspects of tier one, right? Is getting ahead of any sort of social emotional issue, and that's having really teaching students
Yeah,
uh gratitude,
yeah,
right? And that's a big piece of avoiding um, depression, anxiety, things like that. But then there's the second component of, hey, how are you feeling? I'm not feeling great, and that leads into your tier two and tier three
yeah,
interventions.
yeah,
Um, I've been going to conferences since this was really it was still in the beta stages, but I started going to conferences just to try to get in touch with people and meet people. And the social emotional wave is real. I mean, I would say every single hour there was some sort of at every conference there was some sort of session dealing with social emotional. Um, and so I would go to all these things and listen to what people were talking about. Um, and and there are a lot of schools that have started developing uh, the resource centers,
wow, yeah,
the
yeah,
wellness centers on campus,
yeah.
which is fantastic. I mean, but then the question was always, well, how are you
Yeah,
getting kids to go?
yeah, that's the yeah. Very good. And this is a solution. This is an actual solution.
And so that was just it, right? Is that there you should have drop-in hours, sure, to make people feel like this is a cool space, a place that they want to be. But then on the same note, you really should have some data that's showing that it's working, right? And maybe data to help send people to the wellness center. Um, the data piece is huge. And so I know you're a giant proponent of whole school,
Yeah,
right? And whole district. If you're not any sort of movement that you're trying to do where you're trying to affect some sort of change,
yeah,
if you just have a small cohort of people doing something, how
yeah,
are you going to know you're actually achieving it,
yeah. Exactly.
right?
Exactly.
And so the data piece of social emotional is really important because a lot of sites are starting to do something to help get in front of these problems of anxiety and depression and anger that kids are experiencing. Um, uh, so if you have the entire site, or even if you had 70% of the site doing it, you're going to get to see some data on are you moving the needle or not
Yeah.
with the programs that you're doing.
Yeah.
So, there's a lot of schools that pay a ton of money for SEL programs, but then what's the data they're getting, right? And in California, it's the California Healthy Kids Survey. So I'm sure,
Yeah.
you were superintendent, uh, you were looking at the Healthy Kids Survey, and you were seeing data, and you're like, okay, this is real data.
Absolutely. And the way I look at it is that Healthy Kids Survey is an end of the year data, is what we call the summative data.
Hmm.
And what you're looking at is could be formative because you can respond right there and right now. Whereas the Healthy Kids Survey often comes at the end of the year, and you use that to plan for the following year, but there isn't anything in between.
That's right.
So you can assess students in October, November, December, and March for you to respond to.
Well,
So
and
yeah,
yeah, and I talked to some elementary schools that were doing monthly
yeah,
data collection,
yeah.
which is even better, right? But you had kids, right? And yours are mostly grown now, and I have kids; they're mostly grown now. Um, they're not the same from week to week.
They're not. They're not.
So, and if you have one of the examples we had was there was a kid that was he was saying that he was struggling with using the mood meter. So the counselors called him in, found out that his friend group had said, "We don't want to be friends with you anymore." So he was eating lunch by himself every day.
Wow. Wow.
And so schools have in place um, that they have the ability to sit down with students and work out issues. And but if you don't know that the issue's happening, what are you going to do? Right.
Absolutely.
So they were able to call in the kids' friend group and they were able to work out the problem. So getting back to education, this isn't just about feeling good. You and I both know this, but it's about performing also. Like we're trying to educate kids. But if you've got a kid that's shut down because of their emotional struggles, they're not going to be learning.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. So, I had a circumstance in one of the schools where I was a
Mm.
superintendent, and it was a scary situation, and it really made me think about this program, High Five, and how that could have helped us. Unfortunately, on two back-to-back weekends, or not weekends, two back-to-back weeks, we had to arrest two separate students on campus with a loaded gun.
Mm.
Think about that, a loaded gun. And
But
the tip came from other students who were nervous and scared. And when they informed the administration, we went in, investigated the situation, and lo and behold, imagine having a student in front of you with a loaded gun that you're retrieving from the backpack. I mean, it's just scary, right? So it made me think, and then, but in the process of investigating the situation, obviously, and looking into why the students did that, both students, and this is the truth, this is the actual truth, they were scared because activities going on in their neighborhoods, gang activity and other activities where they felt unsafe going to school or going home from school. So that made me feel sad, not for them and also for students around and staff. So
yeah,
we
because they're not the only ones.
exactly. And how long do they have those guns? And so imagine, so if had we had something like this as a tier one approach, and all of a sudden, when the students feeling this anxious from the get-go, I'm sure that wasn't the first time they were feeling anxious. They just bought a gun right away. I'm sure they felt anxious for a while, and they finally say, "Well, let me try to get this weapon."
Yeah.
So the point is, there's an opportunity for them to express how you're feeling and could ask for help in a silent way, where a teacher can monitor something or administrator can monitor how you're feeling. Man, what a powerful way to be proactive in addressing such a thing.
Yeah, and I think that's why pretty much every school has like a suicide hotline and they have the Safe to Speak app or whatever, whatever the thing is. Um, but how much more powerful if they put that thing in front of the kid each day and said, "Hey, here's our tools. Do you need it right now?"
Yes.
And they have to say yes or no,
Yes.
right? And so that's really what high five is it's that tool that's going in front of the kid every day where they say yes or no. I need there's a quiet button where they just click, yeah, I need help right now. Right. And so then that shows up to the teacher, and then there's backup systems in place that go to administration if the teacher doesn't get to the issue. So that is putting right in front of the kid every day their suicide hotline or their safe to speak app is do do you have something going on that you need to address right now? And I bet that, like you said, I bet that either those kids that were feeling that way were to the point where they had to bring a gun, or one of their friends that knew what was going on, or some classmate that knew what was going on would have probably clicked, I need to see someone.
Absolutely, absolutely. So I wanted to highlight that because it really does exemplify why how this can be used in such a powerful way. So, do you want to make some final remarks regarding High Five and how people would contact you? We'll make sure that your contact information is on our website as well.
Yeah, thanks. We're just starting off launching the product out for schools to use. So thank you for the highlight. You can reach me at Chris at the high five movement .io, like the computer language, or you can just go to highfivemovement.com, and you can get a hold of us that way. There's some more information there. I'm happy to speak with any. I love talking education. I love talking education with educators. So, give me a call and let's just chat. It's my passion, really. So, if you have time to chat with me about it, I'd love to. And if anybody that's listening, they have an idea for a product, I'm happy to kind of walk you down the road that I went through too.
Oh,
Uh,
wow. Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome. Well, thank you, Chris, for joining me today. And I'm sure viewers will appreciate the value of High Five, the High Five program, as I do. With that, Chris, hey, it was good seeing you today, man. So, hey, let's get out there and go golfing again.
all right, Ben. Good to see you, man.
Okay. All right. Anyway, I'll talk to you soon.
Okay, bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you for joining us today, and I hope you enjoyed learning about the High Five Movement program. For more on the issue of social emotional challenges of our current time and how you can support your students, please read more on our blog and explore the resources available on our website. And stay tuned for my upcoming book, which will delve deeper into how to establish collective commitments among school staff to deliver authentic, intrinsically motivated academic and social emotional instruction to benefit all students. Until next time, have a great day.